Oh, great, Ray.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want to go and me hold the sheet? Because I'm lighter.
You're lighter.
All right?
All right. Just drop.
All right.
Okay, next one. Great.
Okay.
Okay, Steve.
Right.
Yeah, we should
Meanwhile, having constructed their stretcher, the Americans are moving the injured man, and would you believe, they take the injury seriously.
Well, you're rolling him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, roll him. Watch that other ankle.
Okay, now,
Should we just let this down?
do you want to come down here and hold his ankle, Marianne?
You want to push his...
Yeah.
I don't know which one of his ankles is hurt, but I'm going to go up and help his leg.
it's
Hold
this
him
one.
under the knee and under the
Right.
ankle. Okay, we ready?
Yep.
All right, now, if we want his ankle not to
Be
dangle...
mobilized. Let's put a sheet under it and strap it to the other good one. Which one is the good one?
I think that one's the good one.
The left one.
Yeah.
Think we should use the blanket as a pillow rather than something
Just
to
tie
put
them
over
both
him?
together. It's going to hurt him
Yeah.
some, but it'll hurt him less.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
On three.
We're going to lift him again.
One.
Watch his
One.
head.
2, 3.
On the shoulders or just like this?
Whichever's more comfortable for
This
you.
is okay.
Oh, that's why. God. All right.
Loose it.
You need to cut some.
It's all right. We'll be able to go between them there. I think.
It's good. It's good. Except the top's a bit loose.
Okay, Tony, if you get
Okay.
up there,
You get up
you
there.
get up there.
Hang on then.
We'll start passing the bags up to you.
Well, I'll give him.
To the
Yeah.
lower
Because
first.
you remember you said it was silly to let you go up last.
All right. Now sit astride.
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Sunflower sunglasses, sunshine. I've suddenly got it.
Right.
And at last, the British team have got it.
It shouldn't happen to a vet.
Is the drop as high on the other side? Is it over
No,
there?
over the wall.
The wall. Double wrist
Yeah.
lock.
You're okay. You're
Oh,
okay.
my God,
You're
Dan.
okay. Right, know yourself now. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Mind the bags.
This looks great.
Okay.
Only right.
That's advertising, Steve.
Okay. Right.
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay. If you move the bags.
Move the bags, can you?
It's easier for anyone else.
Oh, God.
Right.
Yeah, there's a young one.
These are a wee bit wobbly. actually. So if I can... Is there a ledge down there? Or are you just going to lure me? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let me go.
Right. Do you want to go?
After you, Trevor.
Go on after you. Age before beauty.
Right.
Okay,
go.
west. 30 metres.
That's it. Right. And up again.
We can do your head first this time, couldn't we?
No, let's just carry
Coma position.
him on a seat. A seat
Okay.
thing.
Okay. Nice and free. Open his mouth. Okay. Open his mouth.
As a matter of fact, it's his ankle that seems to be hurt.
We'll just move the stretcher down
Was that
because
a
if
good
we move it
idea?
any further that way, it will interfere with the patient.
What are you doing? What's he doing?
He's putting it through the holes there.
So, I just said... I
That's
didn't
too
think you
high, that
needed it.
rucksack. We'll use this lower one.
Yeah?
Here, I'll
What's
use
wrong?
mine.
Okay.
It's virtually flat.
Come in.
Okay, lift.
Yeah.
Read him a nighttime story.
Right.
Now we got to tie him on.
Hang on. Arms on the side. In the middle, rather.
Didn't have enough
You ready?
dings with this one.
1, 2, 3, lift.
Lift, bend your knees.
Okay.
Left foot, left, left.
We don't have to do
Left.
a step, do we?
You do, keep you going.
Maybe he'll wake up and feel better.
I can't. Just drag him like a...
For a time check, and the course nearly over, the Americans are only just ahead of the British. But ahead they are.
I can't walk cross legs. My coordination isn't that good.
I didn't realise
The
scientists' weights
scaffolding
are heavy.
at the moat. We have to look for the
It's all
scaffolding.
this good, Libby.
Yeah? All this research.
After 30 hours out in the wilds,
Are you all right,
the American
girl?
team just wins.
You know.
And because the Americans are the victors, we've given them the fastest boat.
I got his butt and his leg. Lay him right down. That's right. Okay, ladies. Roll. Right. Hey, Wyatt. I'll swing you around.
No, you're all right.
You're all right. Just get in. We're ready. Thank you. Sure appreciate the ride.
Sad, isn't it, that someone has to lose? But in tribute to the courage, endurance and tenacity of both teams, the British can at least manage to exit in style.
What a beautiful boat.
Look at that patch of clear water, that sort of soft water in front of us.
The whirlpool are going to disappear down into Atlantis.
You've heard of Bermuda Triangle, haven't you?
There's been shifting.
Right, jump with that line up.
Back in the line.
Not you.
Just slide up.
And for this series, let's salute the amateur adventurers who dared to get out of that.
Hello. Britannia Park, the Midlands' newest leisure centre, may have to close. We'll be looking at the continuing fight to beat pollution in Midlands rivers and meet the bride-to-be who'll say I do by raising her thumb. That's all in Midlands today. We'll see you in half an hour.
Well, Terry Wogan forsakes the studio for the Links at 7 o'clock tonight, along with his guests to include Sean Connery, Kevin Keegan, Robert Powell, Johnny Briggs and Peter Alice. This is BBC1.
The 6 o'clock news from the BBC with Nicholas Witchell and Andrew Harvey.
Good evening. The headlines at 6 o'clock. An Old Bailey judge has shown mercy to a woman who killed her handicapped son. Carol Grote was put on probation for 3 years, and the judge told her public interest does not demand punishment. ITN journalists are joining the protests over the dropping of the BBC documentary. They're going on strike next Wednesday. A clergyman released from detention in South Africa says he heard people being tortured. The communist furs that capture the capitalists' money in Leningrad. And Gooch gets the umpires into trouble twice in the test. The tragic case of a young mother who devoted her life to her handicapped child but who ended up killing him was told at the Old Bailey today. The mother was a woman called Carol Grote from Ilford in Essex. Her son was Colin. He suffered from cystic fibrosis, a debilitating disease for which there is no cure. The court was told that Mrs. Grote had raised hundreds of pounds to help other children who suffer from cystic fibrosis, but then caring for her own son became too much for her. Last year, as Colin's health grew worse, she succumbed to a mental illness brought on by strain. One day, as Colin was in the midst of a severe coughing fit, she suffocated him. Mrs. Grote pleaded not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. After hearing medical evidence, the judge told her the public interest does not demand punishment and placed her on 3 years probation. Mrs. Grote's own counsel told the judge his client had killed the one person whose life she'd been devoted to prolonging. Linda Lewis reports.
The court was told that 6-year-old Colin had suffered from cystic fibrosis since birth, a disease which affects the lungs and the digestive system. Last year, his condition deteriorated. He'd been in and out of hospital, and doctors put his life expectancy at only 3 years. He needed constant care from his mother, Carol, who had to give antibiotics and physiotherapy, often 3 times a day, and keep him on a strict diet. On top of these strains, said her defence counsel, there were difficulties with her ex-husband, and unfounded allegations her children were being ill-treated. Last February, he said, she cracked and killed Colin by smothering him. Mrs. Grote walked free from the court after the judge accepted her explanation she'd been suffering from severe mental illness at the time. A representative of the Cystic Fibrosis Research Trust, also in court, afterwards commended Judge Lowry on his compassion. Mrs. Grote, she said, was one of their most enthusiastic fundraisers.
She was going in for marathons and half marathons and having coffee mornings, and she was extremely inventive in the way that she raised money for us. And there was one little sad note I noticed when I was going through the records, and that was when she apologised for not being able to raise money for us 1 year because her little boy had been in Tadworth ill, and she had been with him in the hospital, staying with him. So she apologised to us for not being able to help us, help other people.
She was put on 3 years probation, but now faces another legal battle over her younger son, Michael, who's been looked after by foster parents since Colin's death.
The stress of looking after a child with cystic fibrosis is one that thousands of families in Britain have to bear. Their children often suffer from chest infections. In many cases, the condition can lead to an early death. Our science correspondent, James Wilkinson, reports.
They both look perfectly fit and healthy, but 6-year-old Tom Smith on the right has cystic fibrosis. His lungs are prone to infections, and he needs special looking after. He has to take strong antibiotics twice a day and other drugs. It was a shock to Tom's mother when she found out he had the disease.
I could say it's got easier, but there's always that worry. It's always on your mind every day, 24 hours a day. And the first signs of a runny nose, you do worry.
Can you understand the feelings of people who perhaps can't cope?
Yeah, I could. Very much so, yeah. Because, as I say, Tom, to some children that I've seen, is relatively well, and to some mothers who are having to deal with it night and day, and seen the children when they've had their chests bad and they're coughing, it must be awfully horrific.
Twice a day, Tom has physiotherapy to help clear his lungs of mucus. The disease affects some children worse than others. At the moment, Tom is fairly well. 1 in 20 people carry the gene for cystic fibrosis. If 2 carriers marry, they have a 1 in 4 chance of having a child with the disorder. It's estimated there are over 5,000 sufferers in Britain. Their prognosis is not good. But scientists believe they're close to finding out the genetic defect which causes the disease.
We're very, very hopeful that we will be able to improve things markedly for those who suffer from cystic fibrosis now. We're even more confident that we're going to be able to help in the prevention of children getting this disease in the future.
Compared with other countries, Britain's record for caring for children with the disease is poor. But progress is being made, and the outlook is promising.
James Wilkinson. Journalists at Independent Television News have voted to go on strike next Wednesday.
Elizabeth and a government employee. Dr. Orr, who was responsible for the welfare of prisoners at 2 detention centres, chronicled a list of alleged malpractices against detainees and secured a Supreme Court order preventing the police from assaulting any
So too today did journalists in BBC Scotland and in 18 of the BBC's regions and local radio stations. John Fryer reports on the growing protest.
Journalists at ITN voted almost unanimously to join their colleagues at the BBC in the one-day strike. They said it was in protest over a fundamental principle and that they feared interference by the government at ITN.
Our members felt that such wrong had been done at the BBC by the government that we felt we had to protest in some way because we could come under the same sort of pressure at some stage, and we felt that the government had to know the strength of feeling of our members about what had happened and what potentially could happen to the editorial independence of our own company, and we put it to our management in that way very strongly, that we felt we were protecting them as much as ourselves.
The Journalists' Union hopes that having widened the dispute to ITN, it'll go even further. NUJ members at Thames and TVAM will be meeting on Monday, and there's a possibility that some Fleet Street journalists may also become involved. But the NUJ recognises it's taken a risk, as the walkout at ITN apparently breaks the government's new law on secondary industrial action. Meanwhile, journalists at BBC Television Centre voted unanimously this afternoon not to work on any bulletins next Wednesday, including the 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock news. Journalists working at Bush House, the home of the BBC's external services, are despondent over the governor's decision to ban the programme. They are particularly upset by reports on radio stations in the Eastern Bloc saying the BBC cannot be believed because, they say, it's been shown to be a tool of the British government.
We've already had comment from Soviet bloc countries, Prague Radio, Warsaw Radio, and Libya, Morocco, and our credibility has been undermined. And particularly people who work for external services, many of them came from countries where the press and television is controlled by the government. And our reputation for our independence was so high, was the main factor in attracting them to come to Britain to work for external services in the first place.
Britain, West Germany and Italy have agreed on a £10 billion deal to build a new European fighter plane. 700 will be built in total, 200